Third grade ELA text set 3. Why is it important to learn about the animals that share our world? Our goal for today is infer the main ideas of "and so they build." So we're going to talk about the main idea. You know that people build things, but did you know animals build too? Can you think of an example? They build to keep themselves and their babies safe. The title is "And So They Build" by Bert Kitchen. That title tells me we are going to learn why animals build things. Okay. An architect is a person who designs buildings. So we need to think about that. Who are the architects in this book? Who are the architects in these books? In this book, I'm sorry. All right. So let's go ahead. A male satin bowerbird is looking for a mate, and so he builds. Satin bowerbirds live in the rainforest of eastern Australia. When the male is ready to attract a mate, he clears a site in dappled sunlight and shade on the forest floor. Then he builds a bower of sticks and decorates the ground with whatever bright objects he can find. Parrot feathers, shells, flowers, fruits, leaves, and even scraps of cloth. Most of the objects are blue, and the bowerbird often paints the inside walls with the blue juice of berries. 2. He carpets the open end of his bower with twigs, making a stage on which he will perform his courtship dance. If his efforts attract a female satin bowerbird, she will enter his bower and wait inside to mate with him. Then the two birds will desert the bower for a nest built by the female in a tree nearby. So a satin bowerbird's bower is quite an unusual structure. What do you find most interesting or surprising about it? So that's the structure. Malleefowl are preparing for a brood, and so they build. Malleefowl live in the arid eucalyptus woodlands of Australia. In winter, the male malleefowl will dig a pit about 3 feet deep and heap it high with vegetation. Once it has been dampened by the wet winter winds, he covers it with mud of sand to rot and build up heat. It takes about 4 months for the inside of the mound to heat up to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and throughout this period he keeps a constant check on its temperature, using his tongue as a thermometer. When the mound is warm enough, he makes holes for his mate to lay her eggs in. This she does over the course of several months, laying one egg every few days and covering it up afterward. For the time it takes the eggs to hatch, the male bird continues to monitor the heat of the mound, adding or removing sand as necessary. Cuba termites are in danger of getting drenched, and so they build. Cuba termites are often called white ants, but are actually more closely related to cockroaches. Some Cuba terms living in parts of West Africa where there is heavy rainfall have developed an ingenious way of keeping their nests dry. The workers of a colony build one or more columns out of tiny pellets of soil cemented together with saliva. The building begins below ground and extends above to a height of around 18 inches. Inside is an intricate system of living chambers, browed cells, food storage areas, and vents for controlling the temperature. The final touch is exceptional. Each column is capped with an umbrella-shaped roof, which serves to divert torrential rain and protect the termites living below. So what problem do Cuba termites solve by building these umbrella-shaped roofs? What do they solve? A pregnant harvest mouse will soon have a family, and so she builds. This tiny mouse is found in areas ranging from Britain to Japan. Before her babies are born, the female mouse weaves a nest around a group of upright, growing stalks in a cultivated field. Using long leaves still attached to the plants to form the basic shape, she weaves the walls with blades of grass, which she first shreds lengthways into manageable strands with her sharp teeth, and lines the nest with shorter shredded blades of grass and other plants. Warm, comfortable, and safety suspended above ground, growing higher and higher as the stalks to which is attached grow. This perfect nest for baby mice takes their mother just 5 to 10 hours to build. So the nest rises higher above the ground because it's made partly of plants that are still growing. That must help protect the harvest mouse babies from predators on the ground. That's pretty smart. Swallows are ready to breed, and so they build. Swallows fly almost everywhere in the world apart from the Arctic and Antarctica. Though they winter exclusively in the southern hemisphere, they normally build their nest on a sheltered ledge or beam, perhaps inside a barn. They begin by plastering mud from a nearby pond or stream onto the wall above the ledge, then build up their nests in semicircular ways of mud balls, adding grass and straw for extra strength. It may take as many as 1,000 mouthfuls of mud carried back one by one to build a nest. Swallows often return to the same place each year, repairing their nests with fresh mud and straw. A paper wasp is about to start her colony, and so she builds. The paper wasp is found in North America, Europe, and North Africa. Before she lays her eggs, the family wasp uses her powerful jaws to scrape wood from any post, fence, or beam that she can find. She adds her saliva to the wood to create a unique paper mixture. Now she begins to build her nest, which hangs from a plant, stem, stone, or board. It takes the form of a comb made up of hexagonal cells, on each of which she lays one egg, effectively gluing it to the base to keep it from falling out. The comb has no cover, but it is very well insulated. Inside their snug cells, the eggs will develop into larvae and finally into adult wasps. So what are your thoughts about this wasp nest? A tailored bird will be safer if she hides her nest, and so she builds. Tailored bird lives in southern China, India, and Southeast Asia, and the female usually nests in a garden or on cultivated land. She chooses one or two large living leaves on a tree and draws their edges together. Using her beak and feet, she makes small holes down the sides with the sharp point of her beak. Then she twists spiders' webs, bark, and plant fibers into threads and pushes them through the holes to hold the leaves together. Each stitch is fastened with a rough knot. Inside this leafy pocket, the tailored bird can build her nest of grasses, plant down, and fibers safely camouflaged among the trees. Boll and dolly spiders need to trap their food, and so they build. The little boll and dolly spider is found in North America and has relatives known as sheet web or hammock web spiders. In many parts of the world, its name derives from the fact that it spins two webs, the upper one shaped like a shallow bowl, the lower one looked like a flat dolly. When an insect gets entangled in the bowl, the spider bites through the web from below, pulls the insect through, and wraps it up. The two webs, as well as being an effective food trap, help the protected spiders who often hang between the bowl and the dolly. For a gladiator tree frog, it's spawning time, and so he builds. The gladiator tree frog comes from South America. It spends most of the year up in the trees, but moves down to the ground during spawning time. At the edge of a pond or slow-moving stream, the male frog builds a round enclosure out of clay, smoothing the walls from his spatula-like fingers. A few days later, when he's finished, he sits inside and calls out for a mate. He will drive away all males, but any female he attracts will inspect his enclosure before joining him to spawn. Their tadpoles will be well protected from predators in their walled nursery. While they grow, water will be seeping in, raising the level inside until the time when they're ready to swim over the walls and out into the wider world. So when frogs spawn, the female lay eggs and the male fertilizes them or makes it possible for them to hatch later. A tadpole is a baby frog. A three-spined stickleback always protects his eggs, and so he builds. The three-spined stickleback is found in ponds, slow-flowing streams, and sometimes in pools along the seashore. During the mating season, the male chooses a shallow, weedy place. He makes a small dip in the bed of the stream with his snout and fills it with vegetation, mixing it with gluey section from his kidneys so that it sticks together in a loose ball. Then he pushes through it to form a tunnel. When a female approaches, he performs a kind of courtship dance, to which she eventually responds by swimming into his nest so that her head and tail stick out at either end. In this position, she lays some of her eggs. A successful male attracts several females to lay eggs in his nest. Once he has fertilized the eggs, he guards them for about 10 days until they hatch, and continues to care for the tiny fish for some time afterward. A caddisfly larva is soft and vulnerable, and so it builds. The adult caddisfly lives around streams and rivers throughout the world. The female lays her eggs in water. As soon as a larva hatches from its egg, it begins to secrete a sticky silk thread from a gland near its mouth and winds it around its body. Then it presses itself onto nearby objects such as small shells, stones, and grains of sand, which stick to the silk to form a hard, protective, well-camouflaged case, which is much smaller than a person's little finger. The case is open at both ends, allowing water to flow through so that the larvae can breathe. The larvae lives inside the case for about a year, adding to it as it grows. When it's ready to emerge, it bites its way out with its strong jaws, floats to the water surface, and takes to the air as a caddisfly. Beavers seek a safe home for their family, and so they build. Beavers live in North America, Europe, and northern Asia, and are famous for their building skills. They use sticks and stones and roots to build a dam across a slow-moving stream or river, filling in the gaps with finer vegetation, reeds, and mud or clay to make it watertight. The structure may also be anchored downstream with tree trunks and boulders. The dam creates an artificial lake within which the beavers can build their lodge, a cone-shaped wood pile hollowed out to form a living chamber with one or more underwater tunnels leading into it. The walls are lined with mud and the roof left more loosely built to let in air. A whole beaver family will live in the lodge, safely protected from predators. The end.